my love, so don't give away. In another woman that can take your spot, my love.
Hola.
Hey everybody.
So in today's video, we're going to talk about our birth center experience.
Yeah.
As you guys know, or if you guys are new here, we do have a baby boy. He is 4 months old and he'll be 5 months this month.
Yeah. It's wild. Time is moving.
Time is moving.
Yeah.
Wow. But we do want to talk about like our birth center birth, the good, bad, the real, and just talk about our experience and yeah.
How it was, the whole process. So we're gonna start at the very beginning. So we made it part of the birth plan to like have the labor and delivery at a birth center. And so we had to go through the whole process of like finding the right birth center that was for us.
Yeah.
And I think the criteria that we had to select our birth center in the first place was like, one, we wanted a birth center that was LGBTQ plus friendly.
Yes.
That was very important to us, the staff, as well as like the midwife. And then the second one was location, because like at that time we didn't want, like if she was in full active labor, we didn't want to like drive far and stuff, because Houston is such a big city.
Right.
So that was like location, inclusivity as far as the staff, and like being accepting of us being in the LGBTQ plus community. And then what else? Like
definitely experience with Black people.
Yep. Yeah, that was important.
Yeah. And I would say just like we needed to feel like we could have a rapport with our provider. We didn't want a provider that would like sugarcoat things, but also we didn't want a provider that would be like
too easygoing,
like too friendly,
Yeah.
didn't know boundaries.
Yeah.
You know, so someone in the middle, someone that you can feel comfortable talking to, asking questions about, and then somebody who
is still professional.
Right, professional would tell us like what things would be best, you know, give us their professional recommendations, but also consider safety as well. And then another important thing was we wanted someone who would be willing to give us our autonomy. So like give us the choice and freedom to like make certain decisions for our baby boy, as far as vaccinations, as far as certain vaccines for me.
Yeah.
You know, someone that would work well with us and give us a lot of education and give us a choice.
Yeah. So we had all of that. And thankfully, we did find a birth center that met most, if not all of that, as far as the criteria. So when we got in there, mind you, like we're first time parents, so like we know nothing. So we were just kind of looking for a little bit of guidance, as far as like we didn't know what to expect with like the appointments or the structure. So we were kind of like open, but we also were like curious. So for our experience, our first appointment, we just kind of did like intake stuff, I believe, like questioning, vitals, basically a breakdown of like what each appointment would look like, and then talked about like different procedures, whether or not we wanted to opt into certain things, like the glucose test, the NIPT test, just different things like that. So we just kind of went over the whole process during the first visit. Yeah, and if we had any questions, we got to ask. And then we also were able to see baby during that visit, which I think made us very excited. So we saw him on the ultrasound. And I think at that point, our first appointment, I don't think you were far along for us to know the gender at that point, but we were just so excited to see like baby growing, and then just to be kind of looking on the inside. But that first appointment was kind of it was exciting. It was good. So kind of first trimester appointments, it's a lot of like, you know, just education. You can kind of see if you want to opt into like some of those testings and things that they do in the prenatal stage. You can kind of research and make a decision on what you want to do. But first trimester was kind of just like very
like prep
work,
education,
if like for lack of better words. And then second trimester, that's when it started to kind of
More testing.
Yeah, it was just a little bit more in depth.
Yeah.
I'll say.
Yeah.
Now, as far as a birth center.
Yeah.
What do you remember about the second trimester? Because I know the third trimester was just.
Yeah, I feel like, okay, so like the second trimester, baby boy was obviously growing a little bit more. So we had like the anatomy scans.
Yeah.
Now I will say that's one thing that
with a birth center, we learn.
Right.
At
that they recommend or like they refer you out to a separate place to actually get the anatomy scan.
Yeah.
Because they aren't equipped or they didn't have like certain equipment. Now some places do, like some birth centers do, but for the specific birth center that we chose, they didn't have like one of those high-tech ultrasounds that they could use to do the whole growth scan. Now she did still like
provide recommendations, but she also did the amniotic scan to see like how much amniotic fluid I had and stuff like that. But she just like she didn't have the equipment that was like more in depth. If that makes sense. To
like scan the heart, the lungs, and the head circumference, all of that. So I think that was like a downside.
Like we had to basically go to another facility that we was not really familiar with, and although it was a recommendation, like it was just like another like
provider.
It was another provider. It was another expense. But I mean, honestly, we did have good service at that place. So there's not too many complaints about that experience, except like it was like outside of our initial like birth center.
Right.
Like I think the second trimester, it was kind of like the appointments were getting a little bit more in depth. Like I know our midwife will focus a lot about like you and like how you were feeling, like if you felt like you were eating enough. I think that's when we started to find out like she needed to eat a little bit more actually. So it was just adjustments like in that period. She was feeling really like she was like the what is it like the
I was in the best mood, I guess.
Like the symptoms that you experienced in the first trimester, like those kind of went away. So second trimester, it was a little bit more euphoric. It was a little bit more positive. And so we found out she needed to eat a little bit more. The midwife did educate us on kind of what was going on. That's when we would do like the urine analysis. Like she'll do that every appointment, and like if there were certain things like found in your urine sample and stuff like
which I only had like
adjustments.
one thing, which was my ketones, and she was basically telling me like I need to eat more calorie dense foods. And so once I did that, like all of my urine analysis was fine.
But I think like our experience was pretty good, except for like the being referred out.
And then I would say like another good thing is that our appointments were an hour long. So like I know most times even when we just go up to like our regular doctor's
it's
office,
like super fast.
It's super fast. I mean like the doctors, we would have interactions with them for like 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes, but having an hour long, like we would run out of questions at certain points,
and sometimes it'll go over an hour.
It would. So we would never feel rushed. Like we would be able to answer any question. She would educate us a lot. And
it was very personable. It was kind of like we did get we had enough time to build like that rapport, like you said earlier. I felt like we could trust her, which is very important when you're trying to give life, with this provider. So like we had enough time to build that trust. We had enough time to ask questions if we were curious, and we came with questions, but then sometimes like she would ask questions. So like it just depended on like what week it was or what was going on. But I love that aspect too. I would say like when it comes to like even recommendations on medications or even like supplements,
a lot of supplements,
like it was everything natural. So that was a pro to us. It wasn't like you couldn't do things like if there was certain like what is it like nutritions or certain things that you probably were missing, and maybe you were having deficiencies in certain areas. Like you could go to like there was natural referrals or recommendations from our midwife on like what we could add to our diet or what she could try and see if it helped. So I think all of that was like pretty cool, because I mean you like if you go to like a hospital provider, for example, like they might just put you on some type of medication. Yeah.
So like I don't know,
prescription med. I mean, which may or may not work for that person. I mean, it may work really well for some people, but then for others, maybe not. So it just depends. So like, yeah, I love having that option.
So I know specifically, my blood pressure was high pretty much my whole entire pregnancy, and because it was elevated, they were just monitoring it, but they weren't like too worried because it was like pretty much the same. So our midwife actually recommended supplements like saffron and did like urinalysis on me that was actually sent to the lab. So for like checking like for proteins and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed being on the saffron because I wasn't on Lexapro anymore because I was pregnant, and I know a lot of times they recommend you to get off of Lexapro in your 3rd trimester. So I went ahead and stopped it in my 1st trimester. And so my midwife actually suggested for me to be on saffron, and it was actually really helpful for like my anxiety and my blood pressure for the most part. But she just made us feel really comfortable with like that being a fear, you know. It's like preeclampsia, eclampsia, you know, you don't want to have any of those things. So she just made us really comfortable. She was like even giving us like options, you know, like when we were in our 3rd trimester and I had the swelling and my blood pressure was still high, she would be like, well, if it's going to continue to, you know, elevate, or we need to go ahead and get you to deliver early. In my head, I was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna send me to the hospital. But she was like, no, like what we're gonna do, like basically they're trained to do their job, you know, so they have measures that they could do there before sending you to the hospital. And I think that just like made me feel so much pressure that was like relieved, because I was feeling like I could trust them, you know, with my life and our baby's life. And I'm happy that we did the midwife route and we actually went with a birth center.
It was a pretty positive experience overall. Even when things got scary, we still stuck, like we did all the tests to make sure it wasn't like things that needed to like have immediate help or attention. And so actually like one of the things with our birth center, like we did have to sign at the very beginning, like they could refer us out to a hospital if things, if there was like immediate danger to like her or the baby, you know, because like we spoke to earlier, like there's such like limited equipment, like it's a whole natural experience, like that's the point of it. So like they don't really have a lot of interventions and measures that they could use for like life or death situations. So they will like immediately get you to a hospital, but and that was one of the things we were aware of and we like signed a waiver for, but we knew that that was like last resort. So if we could avoid that and just go the most natural route, then we wanted that.
And I would say like just make sure you ask questions, like make sure you have your birth plan written down and then ask questions when you go tour these different birth centers, because like for instance, we loved the aura and like the rapport that we were getting already during the tour for this birth center. But like one of the things we found out was like they didn't have like the gas, you know, and that was something that I thought I would want and need, but my midwife was like, you don't need it, it doesn't work, like, you know. And then like during the actual birth, like I don't think it would have helped, honestly. I think it was just
like nothing can help at that point.
But I do feel like the only thing that I wish I would have done is maybe like labored a little bit more at home. Like when we got to the birth center, I was still 8 centimeters and I was having contractions, but my labor ended up being like 12 hours. You know what I'm saying?
Even at the birth center.
Yes. So I wish, and the good thing about the birth centers, well, that particular one, they had rooms that looked like bedrooms, which was amazing.
Yeah, it was comfortable.
It was, but it's just like there's no place like home. Baby boy's up.
All right, I'm gonna go get baby.
All right, we have a guest.
He's up, so
don't mind his bed here. But
we were talking about the labor being 12 hours, I think.
Yes. So
laboring at home a little bit longer.
Yes, I would have wanted to labor a little bit longer at home. Just something about being comfortable in your own bed and stuff. But I am glad that we were there because when it started to get hard, like I remember telling Babe, tell her to come here. Like I need her.
And they came. Too.
Yeah. Also, I really love that I was able to eat like my entire labor.
Stay hydrated.
Yes. I was
They
constantly
encouraged
drinking
it.
water.
Yeah.
I was constantly eating fruit and like trail mix with nuts and dried fruit, things like that. And so I didn't feel hungry, you know what I'm saying? I felt like I was getting the energy that I was needing.
Yeah.
And then also there was only 2 people in our like room
At the time of
his
birth.
Like, so it was our midwife and then a midwife student. It wasn't like a whole bunch of people coming in and out of the room. It wasn't like a whole bunch of like nursing students
It was
and
so
nurses
intimate.
and residents. Yeah.
It was just 4 of us. Me, her, the midwife, and the midwife student. Yeah. It was beautiful.
And the midwife student that was there was actually one that had been there during our pregnancy, like and sitting in the appointments and stuff too. So, and
she actually was finish her, like I think we were her last birth that she had to witness. Yeah. And then she will be done. So like she had a lot of experience by this time too. Yeah. And she just spoke a lot of life in me while I was beautiful in labor, because it definitely got hard. I know it was hard. It was incredibly hard for her. I know she was in so much pain. And I also like that they didn't like drug me up, you know, to have a baby. But like literally after I gave birth, I had an ibuprofen, and that was it. It's like what, a Motrin? Yeah, that's it. So that's all she had. I'm just so thankful. She did that. The birth center was really great. Now we have this beauty. Yeah, so overall it was positive. I would say like the only con, like even after we had him, was like people were like, oh, what hospital? We had to kind of educate and tell them like we did birth center, and then we had to show birth center documents because there wasn't like a portal or system, like a main hospital system or anything that you can like pull his records from. It was just like more like they printed it out for us, and like it was just kind of something like that. So yeah, they printed it out to us and then also emailed us his records and my records. So that's what we sent to like his pediatrician and stuff when we were establishing care for him. Yeah. But other than that, like our birth center was like really nice for the most part. The experience, I will say, like the only other con is I wish that it was like a little more upscale, like in a sense, given what aesthetic. Yeah. I feel like it was, I wish it was a little bit more aesthetic, but it was very much gave like small birth centers, small, I guess, providers. Yeah. You know, I don't know, but it gave humble beginnings. Not humble beginnings. I think that's so hilarious. If you can imagine that. Yeah, but it wasn't it wasn't nasty. It wasn't bad, like, but it wasn't like it wasn't like luxury. You know, it was like in the middle. Yeah, you know, it was. Yeah. It was legit. It was a legit place. Okay, a legit birth center. It was good, but it gave more of like a homey vibe. It was definitely homey. Like hospital or like I don't know, like bougie. I don't know what a bourgeois. Like I don't know what other way. Like the money that a hospital has put into it, right? Because it has like all these donations and all this other stuff. Like so, like every hospital just seems like you might tell it in the decor. And stuff like that. It's not like that at that particular birth center that we went to. It's more homey. You could tell it was like a private practice. And yeah, I mean it was beautiful for the occasion. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And very much more homey. So yeah. All right, well we hope y'all enjoyed this video. Yes, we're trying to give y'all our transparent experience, the real, the bad, the good. Like we just wanted to make sure that we told our kind of story about what we went through as far as the birth center. And all in all, I mean, we're happy because we have him and she's healthy. Yes. And so a win is a win, you know? Yeah. 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 All right, be sure to comment or like this video. Subscribe to join our family. Shout out to all our new subscribers.
Yeah, shout out to all our new subscribers. Welcome to the family. If you guys have any questions, make sure you guys leave them in the comment section down below. We'll make sure to answer them or do another video if we need to. But welcome to the family.
All right, we'll catch y'all in the next sit down video.
Bye.
Bye.
My love.